And that's for free. And I don't know how much of it they're going to let us go, but my book is on the way. My book is on the way. So we're trying to stay caught up. So when the book come, we'll be ready for chapter 2. Just some house cleaning. We'll go over this again. I'll say it again when people come in. We're going to only be talking about this book, our opinions about what she's telling us. She said it wasn't a tell-all, but before, I haven't even heard it yet, but I'm hearing people say she is, chapter 1 just is fire. And she's giving you the information. So we about to see. We sure about to see. So I'm going to let people come in. I'll say this again, and then we'll start listening to chapter 1 audio. And it's going to be her reading it because my book hasn't arrived yet. It'll be here not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow. It'll be here today, the day after tomorrow. And I'm so excited. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Bridget. So listen, BFF, we are about to listen to chapter 1, Rashona's book, because I ordered my book, but it takes 2 days with Amazon to get here. So we going to listen to chapter 1 because I don't want to get too far behind. So when the book get here, we just going to pick up on chapter 2 on Friday. We're going to read this book live. We're going to talk about it. And I feel like she said that like she wasn't giving a tell-all, but I think she's giving us the juice on this book. And so we get ready to listen to chapter 1, as I said. We'll talk about it a little bit. I know it's late, so I'm not going to stay up too late. But when we start getting into this book, we're going to stay up each chapter until that book is done and just give our opinions. Now, listen, I know a lot of people ain't really feeling, some people ain't really feeling this book, but even the people say they ain't feeling this book, this woman making money on this book, and I'm glad for her. They getting this book. They getting it Kindle. They getting it on hard copy, paperback. They getting this book. All because they want to know what she said. Even if they don't agree with what she say, they're getting the book. So I'm excited that she's going to finally have, and I think it'll be a #1 seller. And I'm praying for that for her. And that way her son and her will have money. You can't get your life back and the time back that was so effed up, with what happened. But at least she can get compensated now from her telling her story. She ain't telling somebody else's story. She's telling her story, what she experienced, and I respect her for that. So as soon as we're going to let a few more people get in. Now, I know chapter 1 been all over the internet, whatever, that's fine, but we still going to do it. It's kind of late, but I'm just now getting to a place where I can turn it on. So just hold out for just a little bit and we'll get started. Welcome in, everybody. We about to get started on chapter 1. I said a lot already, but I'll repeat myself here in a little bit about what we're doing tonight and moving forward on this book. All right, y'all, come on in. We getting ready to get started. Hit the like button as you come in. Subscribe to the channel. Hitting the like is a free way to support the channel. We appreciate you being here. Again, this is my last time to say it because I said it earlier, but we're going to start with chapter 1 audio with the free audio that gave us chapter 1 for free, because the book, the hard copy, won't come till Friday. No, what's today? Tuesday. I get it Thursday. It'll come Thursday. 2 days from Amazon. So then we'll start with chapter 2, and we're just gonna dig into what she's saying. So I'm ready to turn it on. We'll listen. If there's a part wherever we need to where we need to stop and really talk about it, or something that just grabs my attention, we'll pause it. But here we go. We're gonna get started. Let me pull it up. Tell me if y'all can't hear it once it gets started. I'll tell y'all when it's ready. But I think it'll be loud and clear. BFF, you still there? You can let me know if y'all can hear it good, because I don't see Harlem here either. But we get ready to start. Let me know.
And my inner self. Author's note. In this book, many of my conversations with Robert Kelly, my parents, and others appear in
Can
quotation
y'all give me a
marks.
thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay,
I am not
you can hear me.
suggesting in
Hear
this
it.
way that these are
Thank you.
literal, verbatim transcripts of conversations that in some cases happened as far back as 25 years ago. Rather,
Okay.
these are reconstructions, to the best of my recollection, that I am confident accurately reflect the substance and tenor of what was said and done. The substance of these traumatic events is indelibly etched in my mind. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future.
Okay, y'all.
Jeremiah
This
29:11.
is skipping. Hold on.
New
We
International
on the
Version.
wrong audio. That was just a preview. Let me
These
go back.
motherfuckers ain't stopping me.
Oop.
Beyonce, Renaissance.
Okay, where's the audio? So what that was doing is it was giving us a highlight of every chapter, like a little excerpt out of every chapter. And so what we want to do is just listen to chapter 1. So let me make sure we can do that. Okay, I think there it is.
Forward. I'm calling on the cavalry to
Nope,
listen to this book. We need you.
that's not it.
Black women and girls have been waiting for someone to stand up and protect us for half of a millennium. Rashona Landfair has been waiting a quarter of a century to be seen. In this brave and beautiful memoir, Rashona emerges as a dynamic and resilient adult to tell her story in her own words for the first time. She owes us nothing, but she has given us a gift. Rashona Landfair's name was not immediately familiar to me, although I vividly recalled the rampant innuendo unleashed sometime in 2002 by a widely circulated child sex abuse tape involving music superstar R. Kelly. I remembered nothing about the girl at its center. The details may elude me because I was grappling with my own escape from abuse in the music industry that same year. As a survivor of sexual violence, I made a point of avoiding any footage of the ubiquitous video. In spite of my best efforts, the incessant buzz about the material made it impossible for me to remain totally ignorant of its contents. Looking back now, I remember hearing about a fast girl, a porn star, or a sex slave who had been defiled.
So I think this is not what I'm looking for. Hey Cherry, hey Jay, hey Bridget, Jay. I said I'm not. I thought you said you wasn't. I'm said I'm getting the book. I'm reading it, and we gonna go live over here and read the book. I always said I was gonna get the book and support her, and I decided I was gonna do it live over here. So that's what I'm doing. But I don't think that's way on chapter 5, and I'm not sure who that is. So we'll just listen to this excerpt and then we'll get off because that ain't even her reading it.
In a number of ways, by a man in his 30s. Not once did I hear for.
This is Audible.
Hachette Audio presents Who's Watching Shorty? Reclaiming Myself from the Shame of R. Kelly's Abuse. Written and read by me, Rashona Landfair, with a foreword by Drew Dixon. Be sure to look for your bonus PDF of emergency resources. For Dad, my son, and my inner self. Author's note. In this book, many of my conversations with Robert Kelly, my parents, and others appear in quotation marks. I am not suggesting in this way that these are literal, verbatim transcripts of conversations that in some cases happened as far back as 25 years ago. Rather, these are reconstructions to the best of my recollection that I am confident accurately reflect the substance and tenor of what was said and done. The substance of these traumatic events is indelibly etched in my mind. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11, New International Version. These motherfuckers ain't stopping me. Beyonce, Renaissance.
Forward. I'm calling on the cavalry to listen to this book. We need you. Black women and girls have been waiting for someone to stand up and protect us for half of a millennium. Rashona Landfair has been waiting a quarter of a century to be seen. In this brave and beautiful memoir, Rashona emerges as a dynamic and resilient adult to tell her story in her own words for the first time. She owes us nothing, but she has given us a gift. Rashona Landfair's name was not immediately familiar to me, although I vividly recalled the rampant innuendo unleashed sometime in 2002 by a widely circulated child sex abuse tape involving music superstar R. Kelly. I remembered nothing about the girl at its center. The details may elude me because I was grappling with my own escape from abuse in the music industry that same year. As a survivor of sexual violence, I made a point of avoiding any footage of the ubiquitous video. In spite of my best efforts, the incessant buzz about the material made it impossible for me to remain totally ignorant of its contents. Looking back now, I remember hearing about a fast girl, a porn star, or a sex slave who had been defiled in a number of ways by a man in his 30s. Not once did I hear this gravely imperiled teenager referred to as someone's daughter or as a child of God. No one expressed any interest in how she got there, or where she came from, or what happened to her after the camera stopped rolling. Why didn't anyone care? The answer to that question is arguably white supremacy's crowning achievement. Rashona's abuse and our callous indifference to it are heartbreaking installments in the long history of sexual exploitation inflicted on Black women and girls in America. Our casual acceptance of her undeniable suffering reflects centuries of grooming. After all, the institution of slavery was America's economic foundation and depended on the unmitigated rape of Black women and girls. In a society where Black people had no legal rights, there was no room for us to be horrified by their treatment, no opportunity to intervene. For 246 years, our collective psyche found a way to endure unrelenting brutality. So by the time the grown folks who should have rescued Rashona from R. Kelly saw her on that tape, they had been conditioned, along with all of us, not to give a damn. I know something about this. In late 2017, during the initial wave of the Me Too movement, I shared my experiences as a victim of sexual abuse in the music industry in an article in the New York Times. 3 years later, I appeared in a documentary called On the Record, exploring the double bind faced by Black female victims of Black perpetrators, as most violent crime, including rape, is intraracial. It was terrifying. The challenge of coming forward is exacerbated for Black women by the legacy of false allegations of sexual misconduct that have been weaponized against Black men and boys for centuries. Informed by this history, I intended to carry the secret of my abuse to my grave. Cases like Emmett Till and the Exonerated Five weighed heavily on my mind. I was also deterred from coming forward by the contempt with which Anita Hill's story of abuse had been received the year before I began my career in the music industry. Even without the additional layer of prejudices, reporting sexual abuse is daunting for survivors of all races and genders. The most obvious obstacle is the tremendous shame associated with the experience itself. Coming forward is further complicated by the fact that rape almost always takes place in the context of long-standing interpersonal relationships. In 2017, struck by the courage of women and some men who were bravely calling out abuse by titans in various industries, I decided to break my silence. As a wife at that time and as a mother, I felt a responsibility to try to make the world safer for the next generation. As a Black survivor, it was also important to me that the Me Too movement included our voices. I naively believed that in response to our stories, a phalanx of esteemed leaders would step forward to insist that Black women deserved dignity, safety, and care. I was wrong. The cavalry for Black women never came. Black women, expected to be magic, are deprived of the compassion reserved for damsels in distress. So there is no manager or knight in shining armor we can call. Spurned by leaders in our own community, the survivors and On the Record joined Rashona Landfair and Anita Hill on a bleak arc of history bending toward despair. But joy cometh in the morning. Rashona Landfair grew up. Rashona Landfair set herself free. Rashona Landfair has returned to tell her story. Her unflinchingly honest and deftly told account offers all of us an opportunity to take accountability for our role in her suffering. Hold space for her. Do not look away. We should be horrified. It is not too late for us to intervene, and we must intervene. For the sake of every victim, past
Hey, right. Okay,
and
thank you.
present,
We'll be back
they still need you.
Thursday when the book comes in.
Rashona still needs you. Black
Hey,
women and
right.
girls still need you. And I implore you to give a damn. Drew Dixon, October 5th, 2025.
Preface, foolish girl. What was that foolish girl thinking? If my brain had not been such a tidal wave of conflicted emotions, shame, and hazy understanding of love for the grown man who defiled my child's body, maybe I would have asked the same thing. God knows I often felt foolish, reckless, and ashamed. But most days, I was so paralyzed with fear that I couldn't allow myself to think and answer that Robert hadn't told me to think. This man, more than twice my age, whom I called my godfather, made me as invested in his lies as he was. Was it foolish to believe him when he said that the world hated me, that you thought I was a hoe on my best day, but that he would protect me? I already knew that nobody could see what was happening. Or if you did, you surely didn't see it as a problem or blame Robert. I tell you, it's not easy being a girl, especially a Black girl. Shamed for our developing bodies, we're considered too foolish or too fast to keep ourselves outside the clutches of lecherous men. Men who our community puts on a pedestal despite their predatory behavior because of their great music, money, fame, looks, or street cred. And if shit happens, we girls are supposed to lick our wounds quietly and protect our violators' secrets as our own. Was I a fool to believe Robert when he said I made him love me so hard it hurt? How did I allow myself to get turned out by my godfather? Why didn't I muster the courage to drop a dime on him? After all, there are always plenty of folks milling around. From Robert's parade of bodyguards, cooks, chauffeurs, housekeepers, nannies, sound engineers, musicians, personal assistants, managers, and throngs of other hangers-on, to the revolving door of artists and celebrities who were stopping by. Y'all saw me there. I was always there. Maybe you looked without seeing. Maybe you saw without watching. Because if you were watching, you would have seen me seek his approval for every word that came out of my mouth. You would have noticed that all the things that used to matter to me no longer did. Maybe recognizing my pain would have forced you to unearth the secret of your own abuse and acknowledge your scars from poorly healed trauma. Perhaps you told yourself it was none of your business, that R. Kelly was no better or worse than any other man in the music game, and I should have known better. That somebody else was supposed to check for Shorty because that was above your pay grade. So because I didn't starve myself of the heady diet of dopamine and adrenaline fed to me by the predator I thought was my lover, shrug. Everybody was looking after all, but nobody was watching. Not watching me, not watching the man who would cruise the rock and roll McDonald's looking for shapely Black girls who seemed to have a point of vulnerability he could exploit. When Dave Chappelle's Piss on You skit aired in early 2003, it added insult to injury for 18-year-old me. Here I was, just a few months out from the trauma of the whole world, witnessing the disgusting things Robert Sylvester Kelly, R. Kelly to you, did to me, and that he compelled me to vehemently deny. And now there was a whole Chappelle Show skit poking fun at my humiliation. I'm sure Chappelle would say that comedians make fun of inappropriate stuff all the time. And all of you who laughed at the punchline would argue you weren't laughing at me. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Robert was so mad that his threats to me to keep me denying this ever happened often came in form of physical and psychological abuse. Ironically, any blows to the chin that Robert took when the shit hit the fan only got him bigger music sales from an even broader audience. And my ears were always burning from the crash jokes and clucking tongues of friends, neighbors, and church members talking about the girl who got herself peed on. Every now and then, some folks will feel sorry for that foolish girl. Some of you even cried foul. This was child pornography and statutory rape. But from where I stood, those voices were quickly drowned out by insults. That I was fast, a thirsty and foolhardy groupie, a gold digger, a Jezebel, and my family was riding the gravy train. Predators know how to find their prey. Robert hunted girls like me, girls with big dreams and naive minds who will believe the lies of a grown-ass man. As much as it sucks to say it, Robert the Predator found the right one in me. From the time I was 12, he fed me his lies, whether silver-tongued and sweet or soul-crushing and damning, until they became my own. Me. Robert is a devoted godfather, teaching me the inner workings of the music business. Also me. Ours is a real but forbidden love. That is why it hurts and feels scary. I claim no more ownership of Robert's secrets and lies that contaminated my mind and deceived my heart. That means I've got to set the record straight. I know that those lies have made some folks mistrust me, and I get it. I can't force anyone to believe me. But if you've ever known crippling fear and shame, if you've ever been so exploited and manipulated that it seemed like all the exit signs were removed from every door, if you've ever been told you caused your own violation and that you're nasty and beyond repair when you're young and vulnerable, maybe you can relate. When I first started to write this book, I worried about how everyone whose name would be in it would feel. Would I hurt you? Would you hate me? Then I realized that folks who were inclined to hate me already did. And those of you who branded me a liar are free to believe whatever you want about me. I can't live the rest of my existence trying to make everyone feel better about your role in my life. All I can do is tell the truth as I knew it then and as I know it now, and let the chips fall where they may. I have no desire to ruin folks' lives. God knows I've suffered enough under a man who didn't love me like he said he did and was willing to use me up to distract himself from his own demons. I don't wish that kind of misery on anyone, but my path to healing and wholeness means laying down the burden of other people's dishonesty. I refuse to compromise myself and pollute the truth so folks can save face. Embarrassment sucks, but it isn't the end of the story for any of us. As a full-grown woman, I've come to know a few things about human nature. I know that lots of times, humans don't operate with pure intentions.
Hey, unique thoughts.
Sure, we want to help someone, but also we want to set the table for our own feast.
Hey, everybody that's here that I
We're
haven't shouted
angling
out.
for a foot in the door or on the ladder of success. We want bragging rights, access to the VIP room, recognition from friends and fans. And if we can't get those things for our own accomplishments, we'll settle for being close enough to the so-called greatness of others that we can grab some of their crumbs. Lots of folks wanted to rub shoulders with R. Kelly. His R&B empire was so big that hundreds of people could feast on his crumbs. So people protected Robert from scrutiny for his illiteracy, his cheating on his then wife, Andrea Kelly, and especially his sexual abuse of me, a whole bunch of women, girls, and the boy he called his little nephew. Robert was powerful enough to greenlight or bury folks in the music business. Plenty of people knew he was a snake, But since the business is full of snakes, they just decided to
Right.
tread lightly. I'm not here to tell those stories or clear anyone's name, but I will not sidestep the hard truth about those people who lied for me and about me, or who encouraged me to lie to protect myself and others. Robert Sylvester Kelly groomed me to fill my mouth, mind, body, and spirit with the filth he fed me. I own the decisions I made, decisions born of warped understanding, fear, confusion, jealousy, and a misguided belief that on the other side of all the lies, there would be peace. I've come to realize that as long as the devil is getting the glory in your story, there will never be peace. As I heal the girl inside of me, I'm telling her story, my story. I'm reclaiming my name because I don't want it to be a dirty word, and my body because I no longer want an image reduced to the blacked out face of an exploited child. My story may be rough, but I'm not a mistake, nor is my life just about suffering and tragedy. That's why I'm raising my voice, stepping out of the shadows and reintroducing myself, because I know there's a blessing in it, for me and maybe for you too. I'm not holding on to one more lie. Prologue, West Side Shorty. Crisscross, Lil Bow Wow, me. I was that good. A pint-sized girl rapper from the west side of Chicago. I was a member of a professional singing group called For the Cause, originally YWFC, Young Warriors for the Cause, along with 3 of my cousins since I was 9. I was the youngest member by a couple of years, but because I was a confident rapper in a small package, I was a standout in the group. Friends, family, and fans alike called me Shorty. For the Cause was a cover band, and we put our own hip-hop spin on soul and pop classics like Stand By Me, Every Time You Go Away, and Ain't No Sunshine, as well as original songs like Make Your Head Rock. At first, we were on football legend Reggie White's record label, Big Doggy Records, before signing with Jürgen Grebner, who was then at RCA BMG. By 1998, we had released a CD and were minor celebrities in Europe and beyond. Our song Stand By Me even charted in the top 10 in 8 countries. Germany, where it reached number 2, as well as Austria, Belgium, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, and Switzerland. Although For the Cause toured in several countries, especially Germany and Italy, our group's popularity in the US was more modest. Most of our stateside fans were in our Chicago hometown. But my family kept me humble. And at 9, 10, 11, and 12 years old, I really didn't realize that our group was internationally famous. With my dad, Greg Landfair Sr., a professional guitarist, and my favorite aunt, Stephanie Sparkle Edwards, an R&B singer on the come up in Chicago, I was just loving life and following in the footsteps of my musical family. Music wasn't the only thing I loved to do, though. My tiny frame contained a big, bubbly personality, and I was popular in my Oak Park neighborhood for being a tomgirl who delivered on the basketball court, a Girl Scout who took cookie sales seriously, and a leader among my peers. My family was nobody's idea of rich, but if there was ever any struggle, it lived far beyond my notice. As far as I was concerned, life was full of everything I needed, and a few extras besides. I loved being a big sister to my brother, Little Greg, who's 8 years younger than me. As short and small as I was a giant to him. When I picked him up and put him on my shoulders, I relished how good it felt to be big and powerful in his eyes. My parents kept me active in our community, from attending a host of local park and rec center events to being an intercessor and praise dancer at our family's church. Since we lived pretty close to my grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles on both sides of my family, they were like a safety net that extended my footprint beyond my neighborhood and tapped me into everything else that was fun in my corner of the globe in the 1990s. I wouldn't say I had stars in my eyes, but I lived in a world of big aspirations. As Greg Landfair's daughter, Sparkle's niece, and Shorty the rapper, I definitely enjoyed the opportunities to try on what it was like to be a celebrity artist. If you asked me, I probably would have said I wanted to make it big as a rapper or basketball player. Maybe both. And with my ambitious and tight-knit family, I had no doubt I'd get wherever I wanted to go. Part 1. I want to be down. I could be wrong, but I feel like something could be going on. Brandy. Chapter 1. All that glitters. I don't know how it happened, but when I was 12, I was my Aunt Sparkle's mini best girlfriend. Or at least that's what it seemed like. And I felt special. She was known to the rest of the world as Sparkle. But to me, she was my beautiful, glamorous, and talented aunt. Sparkle, aka my mom's youngest sister, Stephanie, was already the celebrity of our family, well before her first album was ever released. At 16 years my senior, 9 if you're counting by her music industry age, Aunt Sparkle lived downtown, traveled at whim, and had choreographers and producers as friends. She was different. I admired everything about her. When I was very little, I remember I met the man who was then Aunt Sparkle's husband, Earl Robinson, of the R&B trio Public Announcement. The group became best known on the national scene for backing an up-and-coming R. Kelly in the early 1990s. The day I met him at my grandmother's house, his combat boots, New Jack Swing outfit, and swagger told me he was big time, even before Aunt Sparkle introduced him. That was how she rolled, too. Hair laid, outfit on point, and her own swagger that made people take notice. At some point, Aunt Sparkle no longer had a husband, but what she told 12-year-old me confirmed she had her share of admirers and hadn't lost a step in her personal life. As I watched her get dressed to the nines for her various engagements, she would school me on topics that felt light years away, like the importance of staying ready for a sexual encounter by keeping my vagina on fleek. I twisted my face into a question mark. Aunt Sparkle stopped putting on her makeup. Reading my face, she sighed at the question I didn't ask. Joan, wouldn't it be easier to keep your head clean if you had no hair? I guess. I hunched my shoulders. And isn't it easier to see someone's lips if they don't have a beard? Yeah. It's the same with our vaginas, Joan. Even if you don't want to share yours with anyone just yet, you will one day. Just take my word on that. And that's not the time to learn how to keep her cute and sweet. She wrinkled her face. Best to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Aunt Sparkle tapped my nose with her manicured finger like she had made everything clear. Even as puzzled as I was over her advice, I was sure of one thing. My aunt was the big sister I never had, and her sensational life felt like a peek behind the veil of womanhood. She didn't say that our conversations were a secret, but I knew they weren't for public consumption either. So I kept her revelations to myself, mostly. Hearing her stories of sexual encounters with high-profile men and her various boyfriends in the music industry filled my imagination with PG-13 daydreams. But I didn't want to discourage her from sharing them. Aunt Sparkle knew things that seemed important for a future woman like me to know. Things like the intricacies of love and the mysteries of lying in bed with a man. Aunt Sparkle wasn't the only member of my family in the music business, of course, but she looked the part more than the rest of us. Yes, For the Cause had toured all over Europe and my cousins and I had a blast attending the Stellar Awards and touring with Raymond Simone in 1996. And as a well-respected guitarist in the deep bench of Chicago talent, Dad gigged all around, playing everything from funk and R&B to gospel, jazz, and hip-hop. Though he made his most regular paychecks playing for gospel artists at church productions. But it was Unsparkle who shined like new money as her star continued to rise in the R&B universe. She was a credited background vocalist on Aaliyah's 1994 double platinum debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, produced by R. Kelly, who by then was killing the R&B game on the international stage. And 2 years later, Sparkle became R. Kelly's next musical protege in the process of signing with his newly incorporated Rockland Records. Sparkle's self-titled album debuted in 1998 and went platinum. At 12, I didn't know much about the business side of my own group's recording contract, much less Sparkle's music deal. I was just excited for all of us. As a kid musician and favorite niece of my
Harlem, that's
favorite
what I
one,
was thinking.
I had a glimpse at the adult world of entertainment, but I was still very much a kid, and when I wasn't touring with my group, I was content to shoot hoops and hang out with my junior high school friends. I knew that I was a part of a talented musical family, of course, and that we all wanted to follow our gifts and talents wherever they would lead us. But the most important thing was I felt loved and supported by them, especially my Unsparkle. It was the late fall or early winter of 1996 when my Unsparkle cheered on my cousins and me at our For the Cause concert for the local Chicago crowd. She brought a guest, R. Kelly. I had no way of knowing how Unsparkle's unexpected guest would make my preteen life in Chicago and my musical aspirations clash and ultimately cancel each other out. I was just happy to take the stage in Chicago and amazed to meet R. Kelly when I got off stage. R. Kelly, a bona fide star. R. Kelly who was everywhere and loved by everyone, especially here in Chicago. Of course I knew his music. Of course I admired him. Everyone did. I was excited to spot him at a Fred Hammond gospel concert at my church once. But this was on another level. Not only was my Unsparkle R. Kelly's protege, but now he was my group's newest and most famous fan. I know that some folks feel otherwise, but even now, I believe that Sparkle's initial intention in introducing R. Kelly to my family came from a place of wanting to see us all win, like she was. And in Chicago in 1996, as a musical talent in a crowded field of hopefuls, you wanted to get as close to him as you could. I'm sure that's one reason why she connected to him as she did. He was a hit maker. He knew the sound folks couldn't get enough of. And he was still here in Chicago, making music when lots of folks would have set up shop in New York City or LA. It was like Chi-Town, my city, was his muse. I wasn't thinking about any of that though. I was just starstruck, excited that my aunt was starting a new career and amazed that this artist I was inspired by was acknowledging me. He said he was wowed by us, and especially wowed by me as the youngest and smallest member of the group. He made a point of singling me out, complimenting me on stage presence, and giving me constructive criticism about how to handle myself as a performer. He made me feel seen and respected as an artist, something I always wanted to be. And just when I thought things couldn't get better, he decided to treat my family to a meal at the Cheesecake Factory. I can no longer remember all that we talked about at dinner, but it was the beginning of getting to know R. Kelly the star as Robert Kelly the man. Since Unsparkle was working on music at Robert's studio, I started tagging along and hanging around the studio too. I loved soaking up the energy. It made me that much more excited about my own dreams of being a singer and rapper. At some point during those early days, maybe it was even at our Cheesecake Factory dinner, Robert learned that my dad was a great guitarist. So Robert asked Dad to become a studio musician for him. Although my dad is credited on several R. Kelly albums, he never played on stage with Robert. He would just go to the studio and lay tracks to inspire Robert in his songwriting. When Dad went to play music, I took those opportunities to join him at the studio. It felt great to be around Robert and witness his talent firsthand. And I was also tickled to have a celebrity friend. In addition to the time I spent at the studio, I would also go with Unsparkle or my parents to watch him play basketball with his friends or employees when he'd rent out Hoops the Gym in Chicago's West Loop neighborhood. Then he would take all of us to Rock and Roll McDonald's or North Clark Street or Cheesecake Factory or North Michigan. Hanging out with Robert was fun, and because he was famous, it was like I was brushed by greatness. Of course, I had met folks who were famous in other countries when I toured with For the Cause. And our fans in those countries screamed for our group, which made me feel famous. So to an extent, I was accustomed to meeting people in the music industry, both here and abroad. But this was the first time I was connected to a huge celebrity I personally looked up to, right here at home. It felt terrific, like my whole family was on the come up. It was a couple of months into my new friendship with Robert, and I was at Unsparkle's apartment when she said, "Hey, Chon, the next time we're at the studio, you should ask Robert to be your godfather." I turned her words over in my mind. Yeah, that's actually a great idea, because that'll make me closer to him. I thought it would be more of a good thing, which seemed great to me. But since I had to make this request for myself, I felt nervous about it. Unsparkle explained that I should sit on his lap and rub his head while I asked him to be my godfather. This instruction seemed sort of weird since I hadn't sat on his lap before, but I didn't question it. The next time I was at the studio with her, I went into his office and did exactly what she told me to do. I was surprised that sitting on his lap created a feeling in me that was beyond the friendship we had been cultivating. Is this okay to do? Some part of me wondered why it didn't feel like sitting on Mom's lap or even Dad's. Robert stayed put and acted normal. Then he looked up at me, his smile broad and warm. Yes. Wow. I smiled. I didn't know what I had been expecting, but it seemed almost too easy. Cool. My heart felt happy. Now I was a part of his family. When I shared the news of my change in status with my parents, they noted that I already had godparents, but they said this was great. To my mind, they knew that I was also into basketball and music, like Robert was, so they could see that we had meaningful things in common. Robert had visited our church and given his life to Christ, so as far as I knew, no one was holding the old rumors about him liking teenage girls against him. Hanging at my mom's parents' house was always a good time. Sundays and holidays were the days when everyone would come over. My aunts and uncles liked to call my grandparents' house the shelter because it was the spot where you could come empty-handed and without having called to announce your arrival, and the house would be full of family, good food, and lots of conversation. Sometimes Unsparkle would walk in late, saying her ears were burning so bad that she just had to come by and see what folks were gossiping about her. Unsparkle wasn't wrong. Everyone and everything was fair game to discuss in my grandparents' den. And you could be talked about whether you were there to defend yourself or not. The room, full of too much furniture and folks over the age of 19, was where everyone got caught up on their career moves and romantic lives of everyone else while hoping they wouldn't land in the hot seat. Since I was a kid, my presence wasn't immediately shooed away, but I knew, like my cousins did, that we were supposed to keep it moving through the den. Sure, we could walk in and out on the way to the kitchen or bathroom, but if we kids wanted to eavesdrop on the conversation, we had to plant ourselves in the living room, which was right next to the den. There we'd hear everything that was being said without being seen. And to make it look like we weren't doing what we were doing, We'd turn on the TV to a kid's show and maybe chat mindlessly with another cousin. If I had noticed the topic of conversation in the den turned to music and career stuff, I'd be ear hustling, silently scrutinizing who said what and why. Before my connection to Robert became a sore spot for our family, our R. Kelly association was a frequent topic of conversation in the den. Sitting in the room with my mom and dad were my mom's siblings, Aunt Sparkle, Aunt Charlotte, Uncle Benny, and Uncle Coop, who was the manager of For the Cause, my group with my cousins. When Robert's name entered their spirited chit-chat, I could tell their words weren't meant for young ears, so mine immediately perked up from the living room. People always worried about who R. Kelly's sleeping with, like it's their business. They should worry about their own raggedy love lives. He's got a wife, for God's sakes, Aunt Charlotte huffed. Didn't he get saved? Mom chimed in. Didn't we all, Valerie? Aunt Sparkle sounded amused. Well then, Mom said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone is all I gotta say about that. If God forgives and forgets, then why should anybody bring up rumors? That's my point, Aunt Charlotte responded. Aunt Sparkle laughed. Not exactly, Charlotte, but okay. Valerie, I think we're all grown enough to know that getting saved and staying saved are two very different things. She chuckled again. But you're right that there are rumors. This industry is full of haters. Uncle Cook spoke with authority. I'm sure R. Kelly's got plenty. Uncle Benny's laugh boomed. What they say about crabs in a barrel? That's how folks are, especially if they ain't on a gravy train. Say that, Aunt Charlotte piped up. But that man has shown our family nothing but love, and it's surely not because y'all are rich, famous, or powerful. Speak for yourself, Aunt Sparkle joked. Oh, we forgot. Stephanie has already arrived. Mom was always quick with her replies. She chuckled. But seriously, what's wrong with being on the gravy train? The room went silent, and my stomach clenched from nervousness. Did my mom just say that out loud? Is that really how she feels? Then Mom laughed at her own question, and the rest of them joined in. Girl, I thought you were tripping for a minute, Aunt Sparkle responded. Look, I know that R. Kelly is a lot of things, but one of those things is a musical genius who's making bank. I tell you what, I don't care if R. Kelly wipes his ass with $100 bills, just as long as he ain't handing my family no shit sandwich. Then he'll have to deal with me. So handle your business, fam, and I'll deal with the rest. Uncle Benny responded more loudly than the others. Everyone was quiet. I guess they were digesting his meaning like I was. Dad broke the silence. Rob runs this town for sure. His voice was gravel. More than this town, Greg, Aunt Sparkle answered. You know that like I do. That's why I had to put you on. Thank you. Of course. How could I keep my good fortune all to myself? Someone snapped to punctuate Aunt Sparkle's words. I mean, Robert's like y'all's age, and he's already a legend. Aunt Sparkle continued her thought. And his nose ain't stuck up in the clouds either, Aunt Charlotte added. It's really not, Mom agreed. Look, I was shocked when he became Rashona's godfather. I just didn't see that coming. But he's been a blessing to us. Dad finished Mom's thought. To our whole family, we're blessed to be a part of his short list of important people. I don't even know how that happened. That's what I'm saying, Greg. I'm not just singing background anymore. I'll have my own album on his label. And now that you're playing with him, and you're getting your name out there in some different circles, it's like our family is finally building our own musical empire. What do you think I've been doing? Uncle Cook's voice was full of fake offense. R. Kelly has made us his family, and I'm grateful. Mom's voice dripped with the blood of Jesus. She clapped her hands. That's God. I don't care what nobody says. Look, Valerie, before you start catching the Holy Ghost on Sparkle Huff, let me just say this. Robert is nobody's Jesus Jr., okay? God knows this business has way more Satans than saints. But I'm happy Chon has become like a daughter to Robert, because he does know how to take care of his kids. And Greg and Cook know how this business chews folks up and spits them out with a quickness. I'm sure Robert has chewed up some folks too. But having the biggest dog in your corner is what you want. Unsparkle paused. I hung on to her warning as much as everyone in the den. Robert Sylvester Kelly is a genius whose song catalog is like a whole damn bank. So for as long as he's churning out the hits everybody wants to bump and grind to, we'd be stupid to pick a fight with him.
Okay. Well, we can finish this. Hold on.
He wants us to be his family, we can do that. And if we get blessed with some coins, hit songs, fame, or whatever else, I'm not mad at that either. None of us should be. Let God worry about Robert's soul, Valerie. But I know God can use anyone to bless us, so I'll take it. Unsparkle's words rang in my ears. I did feel blessed, and her advice seemed sound. I couldn't think of one good reason why any of us would want to pick a fight with Robert. Having him as my godfather and his wife, Andrea, as my godmother by extension, made me their family and expanded my footprint tremendously. I had free reign and could hang out with Robert at the studio even more. Sometimes with Unsparkle, sometimes with Dad, or sometimes by myself. My world was already built on the firm foundation of a family who held my dreams like stars in the sky. Now it felt like I could grab hold of those stars and let them glisten in my hands.
Okay. That's it. Hold on. All right, y'all. So what you thinking about what we've heard so far? Let me see what the chat is talking about. At the age of 12, those were conversations with her. As I figured, the more she speaks confirms what I've been thinking ever since the mom was on the stand. Please be sure to hit the like button, y'all, to support the channel. We're glad you are here. Unique. Tell me more. Like, what did you think about Mom? Is it that they basically was money, in it for the money, not really paying attention to their child? Like, what are you thinking when you say she's, just as I figured, the more she speaks, confirms what I've been thinking ever since the mom was on the stand? Because what did Mom say on the stand? I need to know. I didn't really follow it at that point anymore. So let me know what y'all's thoughts are so far. We're going to pick up where we left off. I made a point to make sure I marked where we left off. So while y'all are thinking about it, I guess, I'll make me some couple of points here. The mother had relations with R. Kelly as well. Oh, that's what the mom testified? Oh my gosh. Whoa. So, ooh, Harlem. I didn't know. I guess, I don't know. I would totally remove myself, I think. But now that's crazy. So, wow. So my little few points that I want to make so far is that I felt really for her whenever she talked about Dave Chappelle's skit and how people were making fun of it, because really, like, no one was really thinking on that level as to, like, we gotta make sure we're protecting that little girl that's there. It just became that was part of Dave Chappelle's job. And she was like, yeah, that's how it always has been. Like, nobody ever looked out for me. I missed the beginning. I have to replay. But R. Kelly financed a shoe store for the mother that was her. Oh, did not know that. My gosh. Well, all this time I was thinking that it was just Sparkle and Rashona. But when the mom testified she had an entanglement, I look at it as the whole as at it at a whole different level. Yeah. So now that y'all are saying that, so what I'm here are my thoughts now that you're saying that, Unique, and then what you said, Harlem, is that did mom play a part in allowing for R. Kelly to continue to have Rashona there? Because I feel like at the end of the day, if dad was going to that studio and was going down to some room checking on her, why didn't he say, come on out of here, let's go? So, yeah. Yeah. So what are we saying? Are y'all saying that mom was in agreement because he did all that for mom and had that had relations with mom, that she probably was going along with it as well? Yes, they did. They were going to his house to pick up money on a weekly basis. Yep, it was a money thing. It was a money grab, which is why which is why it was revealed that they got on the stand and lied. That they was now. Did I hear somewhere where when the trial was going on the first time that he paid to have the family to go out of the country until it was over or something like that? They were going to his house to. Mm-mm-mm. It's crazy. Also, let's see what else. I probably so it wasn't Sparkle alone, because Sparkle did, I feel like, played a part, because you don't tell your 12-year-old to go sit on a grown man's lap and rub his head and ask him, can he be his godfather? So I felt like, that conversation was foul. The conversation about her giving herself away, so keep it clean and all that. Like she's 12, not even thinking about giving herself away, right? So I feel like that was a part of her grooming her, and also telling her to sit on his lap. These are just my opinions. I believe they traveled during the trial. Rashona was there. She was on the bus outside the court per her friends when she testified, which she said that. She said she was on the bus, where the TV was, in the room where the TV was. Of course, she didn't have the TV on. The grooming came from the whole family. Yep. God, that's crazy. What breaks my heart is because she was on her way. If they were international, so see, they didn't make it in the U.S. You know how you make it in the U.S., but then you go outside of the U.S. to international countries to become internationally known, and you make more money internationally, I think, right? You have more support internationally, and they were already internationally celebrities. Like they the song alone, Stand By Me, was on the top 10 in 8 countries. Like they were doing really good as young kids, whoever was managing them. And I think that was just snatched away from her. And then also I wanted to make note of, like, she talks about Sparkle and Sparkle and all the industry men that Sparkle had been with, and just kind of like putting her up on game how to do that, right? Is how it feels. And then, and here we are. I just think what could have possibly happened was Sparkle was messing around with him as well. I think that too. I think that too. and she had already got to know him. So like that makes me think that's part of her telling Rashona to go sit on his lap next time they're in the studio, because she knew, what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. She knew Rob. She knew what R. Kelly was about at that time. Was messing around with him, as well as the mom. And when Rashona came of age, 16, 17, she started to sleep with him, and Sparkle became jealous. And then she want to blow the whistle, right? After you've groomed her and put her in position to be there, then you want to go blow the whistle now, because now the attention's no longer on you. That makes sense, Unique. That makes sense. Sparkle was dealing with him. She left her husband because she mentioned when Earl Robinson from Public Announcement, she was married. All of a sudden, she wasn't married no more. He was gone, and that's because of that alleged relationship. She started messing with R. Kelly, and that's making sense what Unique is saying, in that now that Rashona comes of age, and Rashona's a pretty girl, and she was younger, and so he was giving his attention to her, and she got jealous. Hold on. And the other thing that, is brought to my attention, that I'm hearing her say, is like she was wondering, like, or they talked about how he was cheating on his wife, and how they were cheating on his wife, and how he was, and nobody and everybody was coming over, like musicians, his engineers, everybody saw me there. She said this in the beginning. She was like, everybody saw me there, and no one, y'all saw me, but you wasn't looking. And she felt like, so don't play like you didn't see me there, and you didn't know what age I was, and you didn't know what he was doing, but everybody just was, they were just, I guess, tamed to look the other way, because the whole industry is jacked up like that. Let me see. I gotta get my glasses to read these. Okay, I'm back. Here you go. Be careful. Okay. So let me get back to the comments. Sparkle was dealing with him. Okay. Sparkle's at her husband. We'll have to go back and listen. Yeah. Phases, the reason why I don't believe she was 13 or 14, because the girl in the tape was developed and experienced at 13. Experience, and you're not moving like that. But you have to think about this also. She said that she developed earlier on. She developed early, and which black girl, she says, if you heard her in the beginning, she said black girls develop quicker than other races, and they look more mature. And maybe she wasn't experienced, but he was already like grooming her to get there, to get to that point of where she may not be so experienced, but whatever according to her, that she was brainwashed already. So because it wasn't long after he met her that this started happening to her anyway. So she was already brainwashed. So whatever he told her to do, whether it's like turn over, raise up, do whatever, whatever he said do, that's what she do. Because she said immediately when she sat on his lap and started rubbing his head, it just felt different than maybe sitting on her daddy's or her mama's lap and hugging them. She said it just automatically felt different. So that's kind of why, that's just kind of my 2 cents. Drea was involved in it. And so I tend to believe that, right? I don't fall for, I think, and I'm just gonna say I don't fall for Drea's story. Like I believe things happen to her, that shouldn't have or whatever, but I do believe because I mean, she was living in the house. She was first of all, she was married to R. Kelly. She was living in the house. She knew what he was doing all along. And so I just can't believe, I'm just not going to be able to believe that she didn't realize what was going on with Rashona too. That she didn't understand, that she didn't know what was going on with Sparkle. Like, and the way the industry is set up, especially Sparkle, I know that things were going on for her to, kind of come up in the business like that, to get the record deal. And, there's things I'm told that in the industry that you have to do to be that person. And then she comes up with her own album. Yeah, no, not right away, not right at 12. I'm saying as it went on. Like I think it was when she got with him when she was 12. And she said that when she went in there and asked him to be the goddaughter, to be her godfather, that it felt different for her. But then she said it was probably, I'm not saying immediately that he started grooming her. No. Drea came to R. Kelly engaged. Her fiance eventually disappeared after she was on the back of the bus with them. And all the dancers, it eventually became only her in the back of the bus. She already knew. Yeah, because like Unique, she even said, she was like, it felt like, he was nice to her. He would take them out, all the family out to eat. So no, it wasn't as soon as he became her godmother, or as soon as they met when she was 12. Not immediately, but it wasn't too far fetched to say that it was within a year that stuff was happening, started happening. Um, okay, so then also she said that she felt like in the beginning, like when Sparkle brought R. Kelly, anyway, initially brought R. Kelly to them, she to watch them perform or whatever. She felt like, initially Sparkle was doing that because she wanted everybody to win. I believe that. I believe that she was trying to give them opportunity. I don't believe that it was right away that I don't think she walked. I can't say. I don't know that she walked into bringing R. Kelly to see them perform for any reason other than she wanted them to be successful as well. And then it just all turned bad. And the guy who made multiple copies of the tape said she wasn't 13. Okay. So anyway, we're gonna read the whole book and just kind of talk about whatever. I mean, it caught my. I mean, it's really starting out really good, but this is just right the beginning of her telling us how they connected, talking about her family, talking about them overseas and how she was a performer. Both of the guys admitted everyone in the tape was grown. So let me ask you something unique. Did the person that you saw in that tape, did you see the tape? I didn't see the tape. I didn't see it like roll the tape. But did the girl look grown to you? Your honest opinion? Or did you see it? Okay. And did the girl look grown to you? Like a grown woman? Okay. I respect that. So I think that's all the notes I had. Anyway, so I just wanted to get us started before my book came in. It'll be here. Gonna continue to read the book, continue to have these conversations respectfully. So y'all bear with me and we'll be back soon as the book comes. We'll move on. I marked the spot where we left off too, so we don't have to go back. But Harlem, you can go hit the audio for free and listen to the beginning that you missed before you came in. Harlem said, "My daughter is 30 and people think she is a teenager. Teenagers do develop early and look older than what they are." Yep, I agree. And that's exactly what Rashona was saying, especially about Black girls. Thank y'all for hitting the like. Thank y'all for coming by tonight. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and go. Drea even looked young and wasn't developed. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go. It's late. We'll be back. Y'all have a good night. We'll continue the conversation, okay? Thank y'all for being here. Drea, I believe, was 18 or 19, so she was young. They are very petite. Yeah, both of them, actually. Okay. All right. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Thank y'all for being here. Have a good night. We'll come back and start up tomorrow or Thursday. Good night, Unique Thoughts. Thank you for being here and joining in the conversation. Everybody, good night. Talk to y'all tomorrow.